Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this episode. God creates out of nothing. Wonderful, you say. Yes, to be sure. But he does what it takes is still more wonderful. But he does what is still more wonderful. He makes saints out of sinners. Soren Kierkegaard. Our guest today, a great friend of the Culture Matters podcast. If you haven't listened to episode 802, 803, 803. Sorry, 802, whoever you are out there. Go listen to 803 and 802. You can do that too. After this episode, very different conversation, but like almost like the preclude. Our guest is a leader in an industry that we all may take for granted. Whether you're renting right now, listen to this conversation, or you own your first or seventh home, they are a friend of the Culture Matters podcast, someone I admire, their spirit, their charisma, energy, and become a close friend. And I could say more, but it'd be good to have some time to talk with the guest this show and not just be a 45. I think I could do, maybe this could be the longest introduction I ever do.
You're the man. I appreciate you.
Jonathon Haddad, thanks for coming back. You're the man. Love you. Next door lending. Man, the leadership you're bringing to I was taking notes from the last show. I want to talk about how your activity, consistency, training, accountability is going. So I don't act a fool. You asked me how I was doing before the show. I was telling you about my nightmares, and here we are. Now we're recording. I was looking up angels and demons before on Wikipedia before we hit record, and I
Sounds like it's giving you the same anxiety it gives me. I
what do you yeah what do you mean? Oh,
The angels and demons. I was just saying you were having nightmares. So you usually I always joke around. It's just I'm always thinking about that stuff since I was a kid. So it leads to very different types of thoughts sometimes throughout the day.
so I had my baby in a bat in like a bag and like that sounds in like a one of those things that holds babies,
Mhm.
like a satchel kind of thing, like a rucksack, and his head was out of it, and there was all these people, and we're walking or something up this stairway that's going up and up and up. It seems like forever, like rectangularly up or in a square, they cascading upward
I'm
stairway.
thinking pyramids if you just kind of keep it going
Yeah,
up.
everybody's walking to the right and it's going up. And somehow the sack and the head got separated. But my baby's not dead. But the body's in the sack, and somebody has the sack, and I have the head. And I'm trying to yell because the sack like fell, and then some little kid grabbed it and ran, and then everyone's yelling, like people trying to yell, like stop, and people are throwing the sack, like they think they don't know what's in the sack. And like this, and one of the kids, I won't say somebody close. I know this kid. I'm very close with this. There's one. I don't know why I don't want to say who the kid is, but maybe just let's leave them out of my crazy dreams. But
I
there's a kid that I know in real life that he's like really excited. He's throwing the sack now. And somebody else has the sack. Some childhood friend has this, and now like hundreds of people are yelling on this stairwell, like this at different levels, like. And they can't hear he can't, whoever has the sack can't hear what we're yelling, which is like, give the sack back to Jay.
Do you ever dissect your dreams?
No, that's why this is cool. Like, and
That's
I haven't read
what I'm
Freud. I
wondering.
haven't read. I have not. I have it. It's right. It's literally. It's got to be right there. The I might have, and or it's downstairs. I have I have a psychology section on this shelf. Sigmund Freud's Psychology of Dreams is not here. I have William James, Carl Jung, Lev Vygotsky. It's downstairs, but his magnum opus on dreams is downstairs. I haven't read it. So in this portion of the recurring, the night the inception nightmare that I just got out of like 20 minutes, not 20, an hour ago, whatever. It just kept going, like different people getting the sack and yeah, and throwing it. And now I'm thinking the longer that this head is not attached to the body, I'm running out of time. My baby's gonna die. And that was and that there wasn't, I woke up a bunch of times last night. Like woke up at 4, woke up at 4:45, woke up at 5:30. Eventually I got up. I'm like, I gotta prepare for this podcast. Because I prepare before anything. You said last episode, preparation breeds confidence. Confidence. And as an insecure man, I have to prepare. So, dude, that was one part of the dream. Then it evolved into another level that maybe we'll circle back like in
So
a
I
bit
don't
in the
know.
show. But
I
dude,
don't
that
know
was, what do you think?
if this means anything to you. I don't know. I'm just gonna read to you what I quickly crafted. Okay. All right.
Please, please.
Again, I don't know what it means, if anything at all. You might say, John, that has nothing to do with me. So I'm just reading. Baby, in dreams, a baby often represents something new in life, a project, relationship, a business, or even a new version of yourself. The sack holding the baby, carrying the baby in a sack on your arm could mean you feeling like you're protecting something important, but in an unconventional way. This could symbolize a business or personal goal that feels fragile or at risk. Separation of the head and body. A baby's head and separating but still alive suggests a disconnect, possibly between your mind and emotions or between different areas of your life, work and family. This could reflect feeling pulled in multiple directions. And then last but not least, friends throwing the sack. If your friends were carelessly tossing the body, it might mean you feel unsupported or misunderstood by those around you. They might not realize the weight of your responsibilities or how much pressure you're under. So
Dude, wait. I'm moving my meetings for the rest of the day. Let's keep going. You're coming on the next podcast. And Vinny, you're sticking around for Vinny.
I'm sorry. I just quickly flew
This
through
is
it for you.
great. This is First of all, like my first thought is like, my first thought on that is like, and the astrologers, how like everything is my sign or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, so I want to be careful that I'm not letting but you know what I'm saying? But dude, that we could, I mean, of course, yeah. Oh, I do tell. Send me that link. Now I'm like, I'm gonna go read that Freud book because that's not the section of psychology that I consider myself
No, because
but
I love
that is
to,
great.
I'm like you. I don't know. So I don't dream often, but when I do, they're very vivid, my dreams. So I started writing my dreams down since I was about 13 years old. So
Really?
yeah, so I've been,
Oh,
there's some stuff I'm not comfortable sharing just yet that I'd love to talk to you about one day, like just over drinks or dinner if
yeah.
you die. But yeah, my dreams have been very prevalent in my life since I was about 13 years old. I have a book filled with them. And I started like just trying to understand them more and more since I was a kid.
Did you know that Carl Jung did that?
I did not know that. No.
So right next to my bed, to the right, is I'll, the black books, 7 books. As a project, you look it up. He worked on it for over a decade, maybe longer. And he analyzed himself in his dreams. Dr. Jordan B. Peterson did the same thing. In
Yeah.
the beginning of his magnum opus, Peterson, which I have right here, Maps of Meaning, he opens it up in the introduction, talking about his early adolescent conflict, anxiety, panic, terror around his dreams as it related to like the world destructing. Like there are dreams in this book. I'm reading it again. And in the preface, he actually shares one of his dreams, two of his dreams um in the first few pages. My parents lived in a standard ranch style house in a middle class neighborhood. This is a dream.
Yep.
In a small town in northern Alberta. I was sitting in the darkened basement of this house in the family room watching TV with my cousin Diane, who was in truth in waking life the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. A newscaster suddenly interrupted the program. The television picture and sound distorted, and static filled the screen. My cousin stood up and went behind the TV to check the electrical cord. She touched it and started convulsing and frothing at the mouth, frozen upright by intense current. A brilliant flash of light from a small window flooded the basement. I rushed upstairs. There was nothing left of the ground floor of the house. It had been completely and cleanly sheared away, leaving only the floor, which now served the basement as a roof. Red and orange flames filled the sky, from horizon to horizon. Nothing was left as far as I could see, except skeletal black ruins sticking up here and there. No houses, no trees, no signs of other human beings or of any life whatsoever. The entire town and everything that surrounded it on the flat prairie had been completely obliterated. It started to rain mud heavily. The mud blotted out everything and left the earth brown, wet, flat, and dull, and the sky laden, even gray. A few distraught and shell-shocked people started to gather together. They were carrying unlabeled and dented cans of food, which contained nothing but mush and vegetables. They stood in the mud, looking exhausted and disheveled. Some dogs emerged out of out from under the basement stairs, where they had inexplicably taken residence. They were standing upright on their hind legs. They were thin like greyhounds and had pointed noses. They looked like creatures of ritual, like Anubis from the Egyptian tombs. They were carrying plates in front of them, which contained pieces of seared meat. They wanted to trade the meat for the cans. I took a plate. In the center of it was a circular slab of flesh, 4 inches in diameter and 1 inch thick, foully cooked, oily, with a marrow bone in the center of it. Where did it come from? I had a terrible thought. I rushed downstairs to my cousin. The dogs had butchered her and were offering the meat to the survivors of the disaster.
Dude, I did not know that.
You got to get this book, man. I've been
I
studying
did
for a decade,
not.
almost 8 years maybe, and very important in our corporate work. It the beginning, even just the preface, he goes into like what was his inspiration. He wrote it for him. It was 15 years it took him to write it, 3 hours a day, 15 years, and started thinking about it as a young man. And it's really what's behind all of his genius is this and is the work that he put into this. But man, he goes into his dreams in the book and the motivation. And I thought of him and Jung when you were talking about your dreams.
I
You have a
appreciate that.
dream book.
You know how much I love Jordan Peterson. That's
You have
that's
a dream book.
I did not know that at all. I just looked up Carl Jung's too, the Black Book you were talking about.
Yeah, I got like a box set. They're sitting next to the bed, and I just started reading the first one. And the guy was the guy's a unique bird.
Big time. And it's funny, like I don't know, you seem to start, at least for me, I know it's not for everybody, but you start gravitating towards people like that. At least just in my line of work, and it seems like yours as well. And I don't know if it's just because we seek more understanding of what's going on in our
Have
surroundings.
you always been curious?
Yeah. since I was a kid. I mean, since I was really, really young. It started with religion heavily. My parents were really strict religiously.
Hmm,
So, but I was very much so a questions kind of guy, which in my culture at the time growing up was not a thing. You know,
really?
yeah, it just wasn't, my family, my parents are wonderful human beings, but they were very old school in a sense where, the Bible says this, so therefore it's this. And I was just asking questions. I am religious personally, but I had to find my journey a different way. I couldn't accept just, hey, this is the word. I had to start learning the Old Testament, the New Testament, understanding religion more. I started understanding the Quran. I just wanted to understand Abrahamic religions, and that was where this curiosity started when I was a kid.
I wonder how much that, how much the tension between asking questions and not has to do with where a culture is in their civilizational journey.
I think you always do that. You have very unique
Lost you. Hold on.
ways of asking a question.
Just say that last thing again. I just my internet just went crazy. You said I think you're. What'd
You,
you say?
I said, I think you always do that. You're good at finding a question that really is about the culture, even of a civilization or a potential culture, right? Think about the way you just asked that question. I do believe parts of people not moving forward is their inability to understand how to ask the right question. And it takes some people a lot of time and thought because you have to be taught that for a majority of people is how to ask the right question, which allows you to expand your mind and give you a lot more perspective. I came to my own conclusion my way, and I did it through asking a ton of questions. And guess what? I do still have the same conclusion that my parents wanted me to have. The difference is I got to answer a lot of my questions along the way, and I feel much more comfortable with this decision and not just taking it at face value.
There are the conditions of our environment influence our desire, capacity, and opportunity to ask questions.
Does your and I know I know with you and you'll come back. It's you asking me the questions, but I am curious, like with your research and when you're diving into what you dive into, do you tend to find that a lot with cultures? Like, do you actually see what you just mentioned? Where,
Well, think of it like this.
yeah,
So the answer is absolute. That's where this thought has never. This is it's matriculate from something kind of hit me. I want to like follow the string. It's like they're based. Okay. The smaller the business, like the new, like not just small. So it's not just time. It's not just how long you can have a business that's 50 years old that acts like a new business, that energy. You could have a business that's 5 months old that acts like a 50-year-old business. When we're real small and it's new, that would correlate with, hey, we're not even talking to one another. We're only communicating through what we're doing. You've got 7 jobs, I've got 8. I've got 4, you've got 12. Like you and I, we're at a part of our careers where we can do this on a
yeah,
Saturday morning. There was a part of our careers where this would have,
not
unless it was absolutely part of how we were directly being compensated.
that's no, that's keep going. Sorry,
So
keep
like when I thought of your parents, because remember, I've learned so much already from asking questions about your background and your culture and their histories and all that so amazing, rich culture wise. Like this is a different country, a different civilization on a different life cycle. Like the people, how the people respond to the world, we're in a different place. So like, do we have chance to ask, like, are we sitting around philosophizing when someone is potentially coming to our village to murder our children?
it,
Like
it,
we get to do this because no, someone isn't,
no,
coming.
it's funny. We part of it is necessity. When you look back on many civilizations, part of it is like a necessity to where, hey, we can't spend the time focusing on this stuff because we don't have that luxury at the moment. That was something that was absolutely relevant for my mom and my father growing up, right? My dad was in a country where he was dirt poor, and people didn't always like him being around in that country. So they wake up in some mornings, they'd have to just get ready for a battle. They'd have to get ready for fights. They'd have to get ready for how they're going to heat up their hot water or how they're going to heat up their water for the night, how they're going to put food on their table. They weren't really philosophizing about what's next in our journey and how do we do. I
Well,
mean,
have you know, well, have you noticed that in t tough times in business, the meetings get shorter and more effective?
God, this is you just blew my mind, right? Because I know where you're going. It does correlate, and you're so
Yeah, wait, you know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going.
oh, because well, here's why
I'm activity.
here's
I'm still
why
on activity.
so annoying with you, like in a good way, okay? When I say annoying, it's because it makes a lot of sense. It's the same, like you instinctually apply the same pressures to yourself in business that you've done culturally for thousands of years without knowing it. And what you just said is a prime example. You're right. When things do get tough, you literally just go back to what works. There is no, let's talk about all these different divisions the company's going to have. It's like, hey, we need revenue in the door. Here's how we do it. Everything else, stop it. Like, stop it. We'll come back to it in a year. Let's fix this right now. And there's a time, don't you think there's a time and place that's necessary? You kind of go back to your old. I know it's not long-term thinking, but you need that
These
sometimes.
are there's an art. Well, first of all, like business is art and science because human nature is unexplored. There's explore. It's as explored as it is. There's still a lot of theory. There's still arguments that have never been rectified and may never be. So to answer, the nuances of what you just asked is the world I live in. That's like I live on it. That everything I do talk about is going to end up being related to business because that's the paradigm. Schopenhauer, I have a quote downstairs on the wall. It's funny. I look at it every day, and for some reason, I can never remember it. It, and I'm gonna have to just sit down and stare at it later today and say it 50 times. But it's every man confuses the vision of the world for his own field of vision. It's not the word confuses, but like, we take the our vision of the world as a consequence of our own field of vision. Like the
Yes.
limits of the every man sees the limits of the world through their own field of vision. So like business is the paradigm which I view the world. Everything comes through that lens is like the analogy I would use. So I'm always the metaphors and things or business metaphors is like connecting the dots. Like a startup is going to the activities that make a startup succeed, certain things it doesn't do are necessities when it becomes more of a corporation. And if there's things a corporation uh, does a startup wouldn't or shouldn't, and there are things a startup does that corporation shouldn't, and it flips. And some of the energies of the founding principles that work when a founding bit like the beginning of the go-go phases of the business, they have to actually be cast away and shed and die into the enterprise position. And in that process is the world that I live in as a teacher, helping people unlearn and learn anew. And that's why oftentimes you'll see in businesses that there are new people in those new seats. And then you think, like, how the heck did Bernard Arnault, who owns like every luxury brand in the world you can imagine, how is he still going? And why does he have a business as large as he has it when, I have plenty of amazing people in my life, smart, amazing, like that want that don't have anywhere near it. Well, it's the rate of change, like how. So anyway, or like somebody exits their business and now someone else is running it, and what happened to them? It outgrew them. The business outgrew them.
Well, let me
Like,
ask a question though around that. So you said earlier, right? You were talking about from the business perspective how not just business perspective, but just in general, you're applying your own biases. It's hard to
Yes.
not as a man, right? Or as a woman, regardless of
Human.
get your quote, right? As a human, it's hard to look at it without your biases. So how do we gain the confidence to go into conversations where it's like, hey, we are the potential expert in this matter, right?
Oh, that's good.
And we want to help change your mindset on the philosophy of this, whatever this vision might be, on how you can make it more of a bird's eye view vision that impacts the greater good, as opposed to your own potential biases being applied to the vision. Do you?
I believe I had a colleague in the spirit of the industry, the profession we're in. We don't work together on the show yesterday, 2 days ago. Work with like Fortune, all the, that Fortune 200 space in the professional services world that we're in, like consulting. And I asked him what makes a great, because their firm actually advises the advisors. So the law firms, the accounting firms, the consulting firms, they help them. They help people mature into the partner role, go from just advisors and consultants of small and medium and large and giant companies throughout the country, in like companies like yourselves and the ones that you're associated with, right? And I asked him what's the spirit, or like what the values of that professional, what makes a great consultant. And I'll send you the episode.
Please.
And he said the questions that the person asks, their capacity to restrain because they're usually super bright and they know a lot of things, their capacity to restrain that and ask better questions, and the curiosity and this drive, like the drive to learn. That was the foundation. It's like, okay, we're on the right track. Like the purpose of like that. So to answer your question, in my not just interpretation of that, but what I've come to have to model, and part of why I've done so many interviews is I'm actually meditating. I'm meditating on my craft because it helps me. It's a practice. So it would be the questions, the ability to ask questions, the capacity, the interest to ask questions can take someone that is less experienced, even less of in position of authority, influence, and power. And it's like Archimedes said, you give me a lever and enough, you give me a lever and enough distance and I can move the world. It's funny, every quote I've said on the show so far, I've not known. Good thing we have ChatGPT or something, but you give me a lever and enough distance, I'll move the world. Something where like a lever and he can move the world. The question is the lever, it's the leverage. The question. And then it's education and it's experience and it's all the things that we always talk about. But it's like that curiosity, that questions.
Do you?
Education, of course. If I read a textbook, that's somebody that's been in a business for 60 years. This is how Elon Musk is destroyed everybody. He read, and not everyone can read a textbook like literally, like their brain, but he just read textbooks, uh, like
He's
to
self-taught,
learn how to,
self-taught engineer. Like he's self-taught everything.
on top of his education, and he will read the books, like he'll sit and read textbooks, so he can then have a conversation through questions and curiosity with extremely he hires geniuses because they are attracted to him because of his personality and his personal reality that's reflected
You
through
just gave.
his social media platforms. Trump said it. Whether people like him or not, who cares? Like he said it. He's like, I met him and I was with him, and he has 100 people, super geniuses working for him in this one division, and that's how they're reallocating the budgets of the government. It's like because he's the lever at that point because of these. So to answer your question, I mean that's a podcast right there. That is like how to.
Can I ask you one more on that same
Yeah.
topic? If you don't mind, because I'm really fascinated with this because it makes a lot of sense too. Because he can apply, and again, it doesn't matter what you think politically. We don't. It's not about that. We don't care. It's more so his brain and ability to apply. But do you also find with leaders, one of the things I'm learning the most is when I'm getting the tough questions. I'm not the standard. Tell me about your day and Hey, how do you structure your day? I'm talking about the philosophical questions, the ones that really peel back the layers of the onion. I find that I need to be in a certain mindset in order for me to be ready to absorb and comprehend and apply the potential feedbacks that I'm receiving from individuals. Do you find that that's a relevant place as the time in which you deliver potential feedback to these high performers? Have you seen that in your work? Like if for me, for example, I'm at my absolute creative flow at 5:30 in the morning. 5:36, my mind is flying. You get me
Well,
at
that's what we have to do our next podcast.
yeah, you get me at night, 7 p.m. I'm still great. I feel good, but I'm not nearly as ready to dissect into a question because the day has really come at me and I'm making a lot of decisions throughout my day. Has that been any part of your studies? And have you noticed a difference in the way you're communicating with individuals based on how they need to be communicated with and what time?
I think we it wouldn't be a great leap of I think we all have a baseline, and
Yeah.
there's research behind that. Like there are people that there's a lot of research that I have not read the research papers in depth, but there is research that people can look into on. There are morning people, there are night people, right? People that work throughout the night and those that are the early risers and that you'll get them the best. There's a book called The Daily Rituals that I would recommend to our listeners. And one of my favorite books actually on writing and high performance. It's called The Daily Rituals. Um, See if I could find it on Amazon real quick here or Google here.
Is it?
Daily Rituals book. How artists work. So if you
Yep.
guys are watching on YouTube, this was one of my favorite books, like in the last 10 years, from an inspirational standpoint, practical. It went through like, I'm pretty sure this is it. The Daily Rituals, um, routine in an intellectual man is a sign of ambition, Auden wrote in 1958. If that's true, then Auden himself was one of the most ambitious men of his generation. The poet was obsessively punctual and lived by an exacting timetable throughout his life. He checks his watch over and over again, a guest of Auden's once wrote. Eating, drinking, writing, shopping, crossword puzzles, even the mailman's arrival, all are timed to the minute and with accompanying routines. Auden believed that a life of such military precision was essential to his creativity, a way of taming the muse to his own schedule. Quote, a modern stoic, he observed, quote, knows that the surest way to discipline passion is to discipline time. Decide what you want or ought to do during the day, then always do it at exactly the same moment every day, and passion will give you no trouble. Auden rose shortly after 6 a.m., made himself coffee, and settled down to work quickly, perhaps after taking a first pass at the crossword. His mind was sharpest from 7 until 11:30 a.m., and he rarely failed to take advantage of these hours. He was dismissive of night owls. Quote, only the Hitlers of the world work at night. No honest artist does. Oh, dude, Jonathan, we couldn't have planned this shit better, dude. This is fucking hilarious. This was one of my favorite books in the last 10 years. It goes through it goes through hundreds of these people, their daily rituals. Simone de Beauvoir, Francis Bacon, Thomas Wolfe, Patricia Higgs Smith, Federico Fellini. I remember it went through man, it keeps going and going and going. I remember it went through Honore. Oh my God. Oh, I gotta go back. Soren
Kierkegaard.
Kierkegaard.
You
Oh
see
my
it?
God.
He's
Soren
the
Kierkegaard.
Swedish. Yeah, the quote. There it is.
Oh my God. Look, I have it right here.
There it is. I
Look,
was
I
gonna
got it right here.
mention it
I'm,
earlier.
s- if anyone's not on YouTube watching us, they're missing out on this, dude. All right, one more. The Danish fly. You want to read this one? Can you see it?
Yeah, yeah. The Danish philosopher's day was dominated by two pursuits: writing and walking. Typically, he wrote in the morning, set off on a long walk through Copenhagen at noon, and then returned to his writing for the rest of the day and into the evening. The walks were where he had his best ideas, and sometimes he would be in such a hurry to get them down that, returning home, He would write standing up before his desk, still wearing his hat and gripping his walking stick or umbrella. Kierkegaard kept up his energy with coffee, usually taken after supper and a glass of sherry. Israel Levine, his secretary from 1844 until 1850, recalled that how did I saying his last name right?
Oh, Kierkegaard? Yeah.
Kierkegaard, okay. Recalled that Kierkegaard owned at least 50 sets of cups and saucers, but only one of each sort, and that before coffee could be served, Levine had to select which cup and saucer he preferred that day, and then
Wow.
bizarrely justify his choice to Kierkegaard. That is, I'll keep going. And this was not the end of the strange ritual. The biography Hokim Garf writes Kierkegaard has his own quite peculiar way of having coffee. That he seized hold of the bag containing the sugar and poured sugar into the coffee cup until it was piled up above the rim. Next came the incredibly strong black coffee, which slowly dissolved the white pyramid.
You send this to my wife right now.
The process was scarcely finished before the syrupy stimulant disappeared into the magister's stomach, where it mingled with the sherry to produce additional energy that percolated up into the seething and bubbling brain, which in any case had already been so productive all day that in half light Levine could still notice the tingling and throbbing in the overworked fingers when grasped the slender handle of the cup. I did not. Did you know that?
I did know that because it's one of the excuses I use when I'm drinking over. That's why like I just sent that to Jenna and I'm gonna get it when she gets
Well, I
onto this.
I love that he had his secretary sell him on on why he should be using that. Like that was part of his process. Like
Unbelievable.
it's good for me today. Yeah.
I just got this is what I live for. And I want the audience to understand the impact Soren Kierkegaard has had on my life, our work, this show. It's ineffable. He wrote prolifically. He thought prolifically. One of my top all-time books in the world is Works of Love. Haven't finished it, been reading it for 5 years because once I finish it, it's over. I have a show today, later today. One of my best friends, Nathan Merrill. We're actually going into chapter like 12 or something, or page 200 to 230. We're going to do a podcast later. Um, Soren Kierkegaard wrote 24 plus books in a span of like less than 18 years or so, something like very and and thousands of papers and letters, all valuable. The Hongs, there's a couple. This often happens in academia. Like a couple will work on some genius's work and publish all their books and translate them. They have this library of his work, and there's like I have a vision, a dream. There's a dream list of all the books that I want to buy because that's like really where I like to spend our money. And there's this collection set of Kierkegaard's works. It's a couple grand. It's got like uh all of his books translated by the Hongs. And I know exactly where I'm putting it in the library.
What's it
And
called?
the Kierk oh
Is it like a collection? I was sort of curious. Like this.
yeah, it's I think yeah, let me see. Let's and I've almost got it a couple times. It's the funniest thing. Hong collection, Kierkegaard. Well, here's the library. The collection, the Hong Library, is a physical place that we could actually go to at Olaf College, but that's not what I'm talking about right now.
I see it.
The
It's like $2,000.
yeah, there's okay. So it's like the collector's set,
The
basically.
essential. It's right there
Where'd
underneath
you wait? Where'd you see it? The
Amazon.
Essential? Is this it? Is it? Is that? No, that's like a uh, maybe it's like a oh here well here's a website that's oh here see this oh good oh look there you go that's like so this box set if you're looking on YouTube guys I have a couple of these I want to get the whole set and put it he wrote all this in a very short period. He actually published 4 books on the same day under different pseudonyms. And one, it's like I have a dream, like that's how prolific this guy was. And all this sprung from your question about like high performing people taking information at certain times. It's like there's truth to that. This book, The Daily Rituals, goes into the different behaviors and patterns of these unbelievable figures from, and I read and I got a lot from that of inspiration because I've written quite a bit myself and not published. I have about 50 unpublished works because of like I write a lot of work for our client partners. So I write books for the deliverables. But I did 30 Days of Thought when I was 27. I wrote that very quickly because I had built up all of this pain and suffering and anxiety. And to answer your other question about like perspectives, and I had a certain gobbledygook of experience bubbling up to my throat that had to be put to the parchment. And that ended up creating the precondition for our business, or it was a precondition for our business, rather. Yet an author is reflecting their thought. Like those that write books, quote unquote, that didn't write the book, they're not a thinker. They're not real. They've been sold something. They may not even know they're not real. Writing is thinking. So, like, writing the book is a part of answering your original question about like implicit in that question felt like a qualifier, like what qualifies one, even like that's a part of what qualifies one is going through a process of that's why we when we go to school, like we do dissertations and so on.
You know, it's I want to share something with you because you're good at extracting this and just being vulnerable, with one another. Um, I've been thinking a lot about like my morning route. So I have we've talked about this, like mental health and different things that I
Yeah, yeah.
don't say struggle. I don't struggle. There's people that truly they can't control it. Their minds can't. They have to take medication. I can control what I deal with. I just have to be very, very dialed in when I have to.
Well, I want to say that also what you've shared, if anyone that has, I'm gonna look up our original episode. I don't remember off the top of my head the number, but with your story, there's a lot of closeted people in that regard
Yeah.
that are high performers.
Yep.
And you're just somebody that's very open about you. So I
Yeah.
just want to,
It
I
burned.
think that's
It burned.
probably the foreshadow to the future of life and business as our society becomes more self-aware and more just more mature in a sense, like less. So I'd sorry just to deviate, but like
No,
that's also a pattern of successful people. It's like they have all sorts of things that other people might uh like ailments in one context are their superpowers.
and that's how I look at it. We've talked about that before, but one of the big areas for me right now that's causing me anxiety is my morning routine. There's so much I want done, and I've been thinking about this a lot. And for example, I keep trying a bunch of new things. Like right now I'm trying Brandon Bouchard's planner, like the high performing planner. And I keep picking all these different planners. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking things I like and making my own, but I want to make it more video based. And I want to do it in the morning, like a check in, but I want a real framework around what I'm checking in for. And the reason why is I'm starting to think about like my kids. I want them to hear some of these philosophies when they get older. I want to do videos for my kids. It's like I'm trying to find a regiment that works in the morning that I can get all the things I want, which part of it is my kids, part of it is me, part of it's my wife, my family, obviously work, the two companies I have to run. And so I'm trying to find what works for me. And I say that to tell the group because I don't believe that there's just a one size fits all that's going to work. I really don't. I think you're going to be missing something. So you got to keep trying as much as you possibly can. But a morning routine is beyond an important piece of the puzzle when it comes for you to find the success that you need. And that's been a huge area of anxiety for me over the last, I would say, I mean, at least the last 7 or 8 months, easily. So I'm happy this is the conversation today because this is what's been on my mind.
Why is that a bit on your mind?
I mean, you just popped up the word, right? For those on YouTube, routine. I think for me, with how chaotic everything is and how in order I have to keep things, I've been delegating a lot more, taking a lot off my plate so I can focus on big picture and starting
Here's
every,
one.
you,
We are what we repeatedly do,
every day.
Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. See,
That's
I want to buy the Haddad habit.
oh, dude, you just there it is.
The Haddad habits, like I want
I'm
your
writing.
interpretation of Brendan because I don't know Brendan. Brendan doesn't work in the trenches and lead showing the way to everyone in his industry. That's not a knock on Brendan. He's just not for me. That's his
Yeah,
thing.
no, exactly.
So I don't know Brendan. I know Jonathon. I want the Haddad habits. I want Jonathan's interpretation of Brendan's, Churchill's, Aristotle's, this guy, that guy. I want to follow you and I want to act. I want to not act a fool. Activity, consistency, training, accountability. I want to be accountable to Jonathon. I want the Haddad habits. I'm just you can call it whatever you want, but I was thinking like what's a synonym for routine that's an H because like Haddad, right? Like that's a powerful the Haddad habits.
I already wrote it down just so you know. So if
But
you
I want that. Like whatever you do,
yeah.
because your career has been so successful. I want to model that. I'm newer in the business, or maybe I'm old, but I like there's a saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't teach a new dog old tricks. Charlie Munger, you can't teach a new dog old tricks. I but maybe I'm in the business a long time. I need an anchor. I need your energy. Like when I talk to you, I get extremely energized. Me saying so. So like the younger and then the newer people, I want to not fall into the traps that Jonathon fell into early in his career that I know from listening to the Culture Matters podcast and his story. So I want to, I don't want to. I'm standing next to the devil. Oh wait, is that me? Is that a mirror? Like that song was fucking nuts.
Yeah,
Um,
dude, that and it's funny. Like this is my look. The more I do what I do, you are right. It is an interest I have, and this is the next step in my journey after I'm done with what I'm done with. And I'll always remain in mortgages. I don't think I see myself ever exiting the mortgage space. But as things start to,
well, but the more that you do that with your culture, you actually you have it. You have the it factor.
thank you, thanks, Jay.
The more that you integrate that in your business, that's what separates you from that is the unique common denominator. That is the one of the biggest mistakes gurus make is they build a whole nother business. You tap into the spirit and
I love,
integrate. One of the biggest mistakes that's made is it splits. Oh, let me do that after my career. Oh yeah, let me start teaching what I don't do anymore. Like that's part of my calling. I got to kill that in narco. That's let me abdicate responsibility. That's what I hear when that's said. No, like bring that to your people.
and just share
Bring
what
that
someone's
to your
already
people.
doing.
Being like, look, like that's part of being that next level of a leader is it's building that flock. It's getting on that horse. It's protecting the village.
Well, it's learning yourself too and building the right parameters. I read something the other day that I loved. It said don't make decisions when you're angry and don't make promises when you're happy. Um, and like those are the things for me. It's like, okay, work on those and build the right infrastructure. So you can,
Don't make decisions when you're angry.
yep, and don't make promises when you're happy.
So don't be Jay Durant.
Oh, listen, I do the same. Let me be clear with you,
I'm
Jay.
just teasing because
I do like I'm learning that. I'm like, okay, wait, that's a
listen,
thing.
Jesus, didn't he throw something on a table at one point?
Yeah, dude. Like this is yeah, man.
He
Like
throw the table, didn't he? Didn't he like
I there was a time where he freaked out. I think there had to have been. Like
I don't know if he promised all the glory before he found out God, his father was gonna tell him to make Jesus great was that he's like showed up after anyway.
dude, what the just happened? Yeah.
It was like he had to be happier before he was to realize he had to I'm sorry,
Oh
but I'm
God.
always gonna try to find I'm the recalcitrant student. Yeah, one of the ironies of being the advisor. Right? Oh wait, me, I want feedback.
Dude, no, but it's you get my point, right? Like but
I totally do. That's why I'm having fun with it.
well,
It's
we
like
do. We have to learn, like, but that's the things I'm talking about, where it's like you learn how to protect that, right? More and more often.
But this is, I've built something from this.
Yeah.
I've learned how to apologize.
Yes. Yes.
It's made me,
Here's
it's
but here's
forced me to build emotional intelligence.
here's the thing though. You have insane perspective, and so do I, because I can apologize. I actually have the ability to apologize.
Well, without that ability, you're just alienated from the culture.
Well, you know how many people I work with that just can't do it? Like they just can't do it. They cannot apologize. They cannot get themselves
Well,
to.
they probably haven't made enough decisions while they're angry or promised enough while they're happy.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
That's what I'm trying. Life is that's a paradox. Without that, you don't learn that.
Yes.
And
I love
that is actually can what rebuild the culture, reintegrate the culture. There's a redemptive spirit that's tapped into when someone at a higher level of authority, influence, and power makes a mistake and can humble themselves to reality with their people. Like there's a course I just took on Peterson Academy called the Greatest Leaders. Highly recommend it. The teacher is he wrote this prolific book, many prolific books. One of them is this Napoleon book you might have seen. It's a famous by Andrew Roberts, famous Napoleon book, one of the best Napoleon books. He just wrote a new book on Churchill that's extremely popular. They're saying it's one of the best in generations. It's one book, not three, because there's this long ass book called The Last Lion on Churchill. It's 3 volumes. And so Andrew Roberts teaches this leadership course. And in the leadership course, I learned that Caesar and Napoleon and um, Caesar and Napoleon mainly, they shared a habit where they created an environment where their men were allowed to prod and tease them. It's a feedback loop, I believe, anthropomorphically. How about that for a $5 word? Like our people need to know that we're not a tyrant.
yes. But you got to learn to
They
say
would
sorry.
let them tease them. Like there were songs about, they would sing songs, joke, teasing Napoleon. That's how men bond. That's how they bond, and they even on a micro level. Dr. Farrell has a lot of research around how male, men with sons and parenting and the young boy crisis and so on. He talks about how, you know, the father will tease the child to teach them something, like using comedy to get the lesson, or play games to get the lesson. Less direct, more indirect. And that, so being the type of leader to welcome feedback loop, like that's a feedback loop. They used to sing songs making jokes about Caesar when he would pass by. That's how they're loving on him. They're actually, and now imagine Caesar was like, kill those men. Don't defile my name. He's too proud. His honor is become more important than their freedom to represent their individual spirit to like in taking the knee on that. It's creating a space of trust. It's like the balance of pride. I mean, we need pride to be able to go to battle. We need to be proud about what we do and who we are and what we represent, but we can't be too proud to listen. And in this leadership course, they go through these variables, like, and that was something that I picked up, the willingness to be. There's a vulnerability in that. If 10,000 men are singing a song about you that's derogatory, why are they doing that? And it's not a negative context. It's a positive. It's a bonding.
Well, you as the leader though have to also have the wherewithal to know where it's coming from, right? Like you have to have so much sense of security within inside of yourself to know that this is what it takes to build the right team that you need. And I mean, think about that, right? For a second. That to me has a lot to do because I welcome feedback loops. I think it's a really important piece. of anything that you're doing when you're building a team from a culture perspective. And your people have to know that it's okay for them. And it depends on the setting, right? Like the way my people deliver feedback to me is important. I need them to knock at me sometimes. I need them to come at me. And if I'm wrong, I need them to say it. Like if it's a mortgage guideline, you can't wait. If I'm wrong about something, say it in the chat. Let the team know. Because I'll come back and say, hey, I overlooked it. You're spot on. That creates that environment of, hey, even if I have an answer that might be wrong, you should still post it. You should still talk
Mm.
about it. We're going to stay in front of you consistently. So that has a lot to do with the leader and their inability or their ability to not, because here's what I see in some corporations. I'm not going to mention names. I've been in this situation before. What you see is a fear of the person. So example, Jay Duran is my leader, let's just say. And let's just say Jay Duran comes in and he sees that he has a new leader on his team, John Haddad. John Haddad likes to run, but he doesn't want John Haddad to fly through the ranks that fast. So what he says to his leader, so Jay Duran then tells his leader, hey, like John might not be ready. We got to wait before we promote him. We got to wait to do this. John might not be ready yet. Because if that's the type of leader you are, that's the insecurities I'm talking about that you have to protect as you're building the proper culture and infrastructure.
Do you mean that the J in that scenario are they in, is there do you mean the context is there's a inferiority that they might have a personal inferiority of
Yeah,
this upcoming mentee that's
I've
leading them to
experienced,
self-sabotage? That happens all the time.
I've experienced it because it's like, okay, so the problem is not Julius Caesar, right? So if Julius Caesar or Napoleon is the leader, they're going to have their people underneath them, right? So you'll have your generals, you're going to have your colonels, your corp, whatever the case might be. Well, if you're second in command, okay, so let's just say it's Julius Caesar, Jay Duran is second in command, and then third in command is Jonathon Haddad. Yeah, thumbs up. Third in command is Jonathon Haddad. What I found is if there's a disconnect between second in command and third in command, the way that it gets reported to the person in charge is a could be a potential real problem from a cultural perspective. If
Massive. And that the root of that is multifaceted, but it could be that that second middle layer actually doesn't know what the future is because that top either doesn't know themselves, hasn't had done the work. We're in that ugly period where the circle has its the loop is been going up and now it's starting to go down, and we're not yet. We didn't feel the down yet, so we haven't done the activities to make the loop start to go up again. It could be that the actual person at the top is disengaged but unaware they are. It could be a lot of things. And this is where it comes down to getting surgical because a lot of these conversations are so
well,
that's where the responsibility of the listener is to try to think in their own scenario and take we're blanketing this right for
well, we
listener.
are, Jay, we are and we aren't. I mean, think about the start of your what we started with. Okay. We talked about from a cultural perspective, when you're a startup, your culture has to be different when you become a corporation. There's nothing wrong with that. You said some of the additional pillars that you grew up with as a startup in many instances have to die, right? Like that's what
Well,
you're
I would be very so there's structural and there's psychological. So like my very specific expertise is around the psychological development and educational development of that founder, of that operating principle.
going
There are
into that
certain things that
tier of
go
system.
ahead.
So you're focusing strictly on the structural, going into that potential next phase of a business, right? Is
The
what
psychological.
sorry,
Like
not
so for example, the
logical.
Ray Dalio's principles,
Yep.
one of his books is here, this big debt crisis. Like Ray Dalio, he's got
Oh
a
yeah.
how he has that book where there's like there's the loop.
Yep.
His is focused on the organizational. His thesis is focused on the organizational. Ishak Adizes, organizational. Mine is I have my own theory around the psychological.
Even from the
They
psychological.
integrate. So it's not either or, it's both.
No,
And
they
yeah,
integrate, but your focus is psychological, right? And it's what you mentioned earlier. So even in this instance, though, Jay, right?
yeah,
We're
yeah.
talking about the second in command from that didn't just happen overnight. What I'm saying is that that could have started at the startup level, and then now you're moving into that next phase psychologically. You might be aligned with the owner. So I might be aligned with Julius Caesar, okay?
100%.
Second phase. But your second in command goes, I'm not ready for this next phase. And therefore, from a cultural perspective, that's more so what I'm getting at.
Oh, well, this is one of the important tensions of a business because the second could actually be unaware that the first has already recognized that the second hasn't lived up to the growth. And because of loyalty, the first is unwilling to actually kill those that have been loyal to them. Because part of how organization grows, and this is the thing, that there are a lot of psychological implications to being in power, to taking on risk. One of them would be trust. It becomes harder and harder to trust as we gain influence, authority, and power. Example, now I'm a celebrity and people constantly come up to me and they want something from me, even if they don't know they want it. Like the other day when I met one of my heroes in London, I wanted Hercules to love me because as a little child, I used to watch him on TV. I wanted something from him. He now has to go throughout his whole life, 40 years later, still getting grown ass men acting like 7 year olds around him, taking something from. So, power, influence, authority, control over people's economic needs, wants, desires, social milieu, all that. It comes with a lot of responsibility as a consequence of opportunity and attention and energy and flow. And there are, so trust. Okay, where am I going with this? There's less and less and less people have access to the real me. There's more and more people that want access to the perceived me because I am at the top of the hierarchy. People that are close to me, some of my generals, for whatever reason, they change, life change, conditions change. It's complicated. The company, we could have outgrown them. I could have outgrown them. The organization could have outgrown them. The organization is going to outgrow all of us if one of the many contradictions in organizational development, the organization is going to outgrow us. We have to grow to it, to the it. What is that? What is and what could be? It's constantly growing or it's dying. So one of the tensions is I don't want to. So in this scenario, you got the number one, the number two, and the number three, right? Level one, two, three. Level three and two have a tension because level one and two are not embracing necessary conflicts
Yes.
that would actually increase the likelihood of two staying
And building up three.
and building up out of fear of outcome from number one due to loyalty, due to trust being, I say trust and growth have an inverse correlation. As the growth happens, the trust goes down. This is truly, in my view, where philosophy and theology come in. Like different podcasts, but like of whoever's running is like they have to be, it's helpful to be constantly told turn the other cheek, love your enemies because it can temper as the growth happens, the trust goes down. People are going to constantly betray us or feel that way. It'll feel, and there's so anyway. Speak to what you're saying. The tension of the first and the second has a relationship with the second and the third.
This is why I love five dysfunctions of a team. You just mentioned the first two like multiple times, trust and conflict.
Oh,
Because
I love that author. What's his name? Patrick Lencioni.
Patrick, yeah,
Yeah, I'd love to work. I'd love to do projects with him someday. That would be so. That's definitely on the goal, or have him on the show. That would be great.
I mean, that book is insane, but the first two layers are trust and conflict, right? Like you have to have the foundation is trust, and then the next thing is conflict. So as you grow, you are right. Like if that's really good, because if one and two aren't, that's thumbs up for.
Yeah, I'm so.
I by the way too, if you don't mind, when I'd love to tell a story towards the end, which I would love to use it
Yeah,
to
go ahead. What is it?
well, no, I want to use it to set up our potential fourth podcast that we do
Oh,
on.
we got to do that. We got to do that tomorrow. Where are
That,
you at 5:30 a.m.? No, I'm just kidding.
I'll be up.
We'll we should do.
I will be up. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we're gonna get it in.
No. When the time comes, if I have that chance, I want to share just a good story about, you know, not selling the statue, not the product, and how it correlates to culture inside of your business.
What's the statue?
That's exactly the point. I will tell you the story if I get that chance.
What would you say is how have you m modeled accountability or because activity, consistency, training, accountability.
Yeah.
How have you,
So for me, in
what's
accountability,
your take on it? How have you utilized that? What's your advice to our listeners on accountability that's not just lip service?
so here's my thing. I keep changing this up. It actually started with Eddie Perez and
Oh,
Eddie.
shout out. We love Eddie on
Yeah,
the Culture Matters podcast.
I mean, big shout out to Eddie. He had this thing that he had together, and it was Strength Finder, and it was more so around the culture of the Strengths Finder. So it would focus on your strengths, then he'd focus on your business, and then he would focus on your meds, right? Like your mental health, your water intake, all this little stuff. So I've now taken that and I've developed my own with it, just different things that I've added to it and I've applied to this methodology. So I do it with my leaders right now. I definitely don't do it to the masses like I was just with my time that I have. I'm focusing on my generals right now, but I will be focusing on the rest of my, organization here very, very soon. But one of the focuses for them, it's like in my head, if I'm being very honest and direct from an accountability standpoint, people that work with me, I don't say for me, they work with me. We have to be serious about what they need. Okay. So if we're going to be honest about that, the first thing we have to think about is, are they having the opportunity to make enough money to put food on their table? I think that's a real question that a lot of leaders don't like to ask themselves about their generals. So on my meetings, I meet every 2 weeks with them. I have three targets that they tell me. Number one is this is how much I must make target. Number two is my stretch goal target, and number three is my respectable target. So every meeting when we start, they tell me how much they've made year to date, and then it'll correlate the percentage of how much they wanted to make for those three goals they gave me. And then you start there. It's like, okay, are we where we want to be financially? Because I know that's a stress indicator. If you're not where you want to be financially, let's just call it what it is. That applies additional stress to you and your family. So if I'm going to be a real leader, I got to have real conversations. So that's where it starts. Number two, go ahead.
Why real conversations?
Because I don't need the fluff. Like I need them to tell me what they're dealing with when they go home. I don't need them to tell me what they're dealing with when they're at work. When you fix what's at home, you fix what's going on at work. It correlates almost every single time to their business back at work.
And what's number two?
No, number two is if they had a personal goal, they have to have a personal goal. So I don't want to give too much away, but one example is she's on my team. Her and her husband, they want to go to Charleston. And that's a personal goal. And so hell or high water, every time her and I meet, did you plan it? Did you book it? Why not? Let's look up dates. Let's do it together. Here, I'm on Google. What date works best for you and your husband? Hey, look at this date. What timeline works best? What's the best time to travel? Have you talked to him about the travel time? We take it super serious. We take her travel super serious. I want it in her calendar. I want it booked. And every time she comes into the meeting with me, I'm annoying about it because I know those little things are what's going to want her to keep her around with me. So accountability wise, you ask the question, that's
Mhm.
what I have to do for my people. And I'm more than willing and happy to do it because I know that's what it's going to take for them to reach that level of success that they want and to feel good about their job. Those are just two little things about accountability. And I can go as deep as you want because I've gone down such a wild rabbit hole around this.
What would you say are in your career some of the elements of those people in positions of authority, influence, and power, e.g., the leader, that that modeled the antithesis of accountability? They undermined it, obstructed it. If we wanted to make the least accountable organization on earth, give me your punch list from
Like things that people
your
do.
career. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's make the least accountable company ever in the remainder of our in the final 10 minutes.
Okay. The least accountable company ever, what I have found that people do, unfortunately, is this. Number one, you build zero process and procedures. So here's what I mean. You want to start a new role at your company, whether you're a loan officer, real estate agent, or any other profession, but you build out zero of the parameters around what that person is supposed to do on any given day is a huge problem. It leads to massive disconnect. It leads to massive resentment because you didn't take the time to write down and fill out what this person can do in a 40-hour work week. Sit down and not think about the 40 hours and how to fill it for a position. You want to waste your money? Go ahead and waste it on that. What an easy way to waste your money. Number two, um, the big thing is not treating your company like a person. I learned this from Tom Allis, who's the owner of Edge. He said something to me that hit me in between the eyes. People look at Edge as an entity and not as a person. So, for example, when they come to me and say, "Hey, can you waive a fee for me?" They ask me to waive the fee as if it doesn't hurt Edge, the person. If Edge goes down, I can't feed all these other
We're in
people.
an abusive relationship.
Yeah, but he said, and I never looked at it that way, right? Like, hey, can Next Door Lending waive this for us? Yeah, sure. Let me see if I can do that for you. That becomes very abusive, and I allowed that early on. That was something I absolutely allowed to do. You want to talk about destroying your culture? You want to talk about destroying accountability? Just say yes to waiving fees. Say yes to
I always expect my friends to buy me dinner and never expect them to charge me for helping them.
isn't that crazy?
I'm a terrible friend. I'm actually a narcissist.
Yeah, yeah. Can you? I mean,
No,
seriously
but
though,
I hope people are understanding that I'm saying that with tongue in cheek or
I hope so too. Yes, y'all. He's for those that don't
I'm
can't
being
see.
satirical. It's a satire. I only expect my friends to pay for dinner. They pay. I don't pay. You're my friend. And I expect because you know that saying like if you first of all, no, we should be fighting over the bill. And if you start your business, I want to hire you. Like I want to pay, I want to be a customer.
Price. I pay full. Like I'm with you, big time. But you get it.
Okay.
That's the point,
So
right?
that's, but am I getting that what Tom is
Yeah,
trying to
that's the
say with
top
that?
to
The
me.
person, the person.
Those are the top two things, Jay, like that I've seen, and I've seen them both. I've experienced them both, but that's the truth. Those are two really big areas of just a lack of accountability and what it does. Here's what's fascinating. One of my my mentor I talk about a lot. He actually it's funny because he was not good with accountability at all. God rest his soul, the most beautiful human being I talk about all the time. But it's so weird because um, can I tell a quick story about him?
Jeez.
So, okay, so quick story. So Piazza used to or Piazza passed away. Stephen Luigi Piazza. He worked for Quicken Loans for many years, and he owned a small portion of Quicken Loans. So I'll tell you a story about this guy. So the company used to be called Rock Financial many years ago, and they used to do some things with the Detroit Pistons. They used to sponsor the Detroit Pistons here in Michigan. They're a basketball team for those that don't know. So one day, Stephen Luigi Piazza is in the booth with the owner of Quicken Loans. And he's sitting there and he's at this basketball game in the suite and he's smiling the whole time. And everyone, I guess, is trying to figure out why this guy is smiling so big from ear to ear. So Piazza talks to another friend that's also owns a small part of this company. And he says, "Man, they're going to kill me." And he says, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I might have to leave at halftime." And he goes, "What are you talking about? You have to leave at halftime." He goes, just know that I may have done something that's going to piss people off, but it'll be good for us long term. So everyone's kind of stared at him like, "Oh my God, what did he do? What did he do?" So here comes halftime. All of a sudden at halftime, all of these massive banners come up that say Rock Financial on them.
Wow.
Never planned, never got gone through. All of a sudden, you hear the owner of Quicken Loans start screaming, "Who authorized this? Who authorized this? Who spent all this money?" It was like $100,000 cost back in the time.
Wow.
That was a lot of money to spend. Well, sure enough, it was Piazza, and sure enough, he left at halftime. And
That's awesome.
well, the story is he did it from a culture perspective because he knew it would give the brand recognition that he needed. But that was a position where he said, "I'll just ask for forgiveness later. I'm going to skip the permission and just ask for forgiveness." But just to give you an idea of just
I
like
love it.
times not having that accountability leads into really cool stuff like that because you do need that visionary that also sees culture is more than just accountability. Culture is
Well,
branding.
I want to be clear. Culture definitely is not
Oh, no,
accountability.
no, it's not. There is a piece of accountability in culture. I believe
Well,
there's a
there's a
small piece.
well,
There has to be.
the
Has to.
accountability that people get confused is tyranny.
Oh, yeah. I look at accountability for those listening in not in a tyranny form. I look at accountability as getting you to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, like accountability without love is repression.
Yeah, yes. Thank you for those listening.
And
100
I can't love if I'm a leader and I'm not vulnerable, meaning I'm not real. I don't listen. I don't tell the truth. I don't say what I think when I think it. I don't share information with my team. They don't know what the vision is. I don't tell them when I don't like their behavior. I tell other people. I hope they tell them. These are the behaviors that I see people make
Yes.
that are in power and they lead to hell.
That's so good.
And then I got to hear these or read these books on accountability. And I liked what you had to say about accountability. There's some great guests on the show that go into accountability. Alan Whitman always breaks out accountability really great on the show. It's a consequence of responsibility.
Yes.
It's a lagging indicator. But I liked what you had to say about process because in the absence, this is in the absence of having taken the time to outline the process, there was an abdication of responsibility.
And that's what accountability is, simply you holding them accountable to the responsibilities that were set forth to begin with.
But if I never set them,
And you can't hold someone accountable.
well, because I haven't been responsible.
Yeah, you cannot. A
But how
huge.
about this, Jonathan? What if I haven't done that? I'm in a position of a power and I just talk about accountability constantly, but I haven't done what I'm supposed to do.
This is
That happens too.
Jay. This is actually number three. We're gonna add this to what company, how you blow them up from not holding them accountable. I think this is such a. You are so spot on. You cannot set. You cannot hold somebody accountable that doesn't know what accountability is. Piazza used to say this all the time. I'd get frustrated. I'd say to him things early on in my career. I'd say, "Piazza, why can't people just work like me? Why can't they work 100 hours a week? Why can't?" And it's just a terrible mindset, y'all. Just so you know, awful mindset to have with your people. If you want to ruin culture, do that. Do what I did. Compare people to yourself. Awful way. You want people
Mm.
to leave you and resent you, do that. So Piazza would tell me all the time. He would say to me, "Well, John, people don't know what they don't know." And I'd say, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, John, do you know how to do?" He would say to me, "Do you know how? Do you know how to do astrophysics?" I'd say, "Well, no, I don't." He said, "Well, why not? Don't you know how important it is to the human race and moving forward?" And well, yeah. He said, "Well, what do you mean you don't know how to do it?" And then he'd start smiling, and I'd say, Understood, Steve. Yes, sir."
I love this guy.
He was Jay.
Oh man,
Dude,
what a beautiful.
oh man, Jay.
That's like that's owned. He's
This guy.
that's Socrates right there.
Yes,
That's
he
good
was.
shit.
No, Jay, he was. You would have.
That's fucking
Oh, dude,
awesome.
I'm gonna. Sorry.
No, please. That's what this is about. Dude, there's a whole chapter in
Oh,
30 Thought about the mentor and the mentee. It's so important to the journey that we that we're on. It's all about mentorship.
Well, he
That's
gave the most ridiculous. I get emotional because like he'd give the most ridiculous analogies, but they would hit me because he's right. Like I'm sitting here talking
good.
about why can't people be like me? And he's like, why aren't you an astrophysicist? Like we need you to go solve the world problems. Oh, you're right. I don't know why I'm not an astrophysicist. Like I don't know why they don't work like you either. Who cares? So but you want to, that's the third one to ruining culture. Set Not setting expectations, but then holding them accountable to expectations you never set. You want to talk about pure chaos and confusion? Do that. Do that.
And I think that's partly why these planned economies haven't worked for some of
Yeah,
these.
dude. Like,
Yeah,
yes.
it's like in the Soviet Union. So, dude, I do want to like so 2025 is over. Um, so what are you excited for 2026? Now, the
I was like,
caveat there is I'm saying that because I want your opinion on this premise I've been trying to flush out. It's like we're going into Q2. I have this the reason I keep saying on shows 2025 is over is because so I want your opinion on this. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an activity, it's a habit or an action, it's a habit. So I've been trying to shake the cage. Like 2025 is already over. Meaning, and the habits that I'm acting out right now, are they actually the ones that I've actually done in the last
can you know
60?
what I'd love
Are
to
they the ones that's going to achieve my goal, what I said I was going to achieve in 2024 for 2025? Because before we know it, you're going to come back in 60 days and I'm still not doing the things that are going to lead to, and then it's going to be in Q3, and I'm going to be saying, dude, I'm ready because my Q1 starts in Q3. Like we're going to be talking about Q1 in 2026. So I want your thoughts on this thought experiment I've been trying to flush out. I've asked some guests like I've mentioned this to some guests, and it's been culture shock. Like, yeah, 2025 is over. What? And
I,
yeah,
you're right.
so it's
No, no,
over.
it is over. What I'm trying. So it's funny you say this. I'm working on an article right now. I'm working on two articles. One article is about living. What makes the greatest sales professionals are the ones that live in the anxiety, the ones that learn to live in anxiety. And then my second article is literally about Quitter's Day. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yep, yep, yep. So Quitter's Day is I think it's the second Friday of the New Year's. Is what
Quitter's Day.
Quitter's Day. It's an actual day. It's called Quitter's Day. It's the second Friday of every new year. So if there's an actual day called Quitter's Day, that means that most people are thinking about the new year for 2 weeks at a time, is what it tells me. So that means, to your point, it's actually in line with what you're saying, where 2025 is over because if you're one of those quitters on Quitter's Day that already stopped your New Year's resolution, you just set the tone for the rest of 2025. I agree with everything you just said, so it didn't shock me. So let me find. Hold on, Quitter's Day. I'm almost positive. Quitter's Day 2025. January 9th is Quitter's Day in 2026 is 2000. January 9th of 2026 is Quitter's Day. January 10th was Quitter's Day this year. You can look it up. So if you've already done it, if you've already quit within the first 2 weeks of the year, I completely agree with the sentiment you just gave. You're right.
All right, how about this though? What if I, what if I'm one of the listeners that is ardent? Like, I haven't quit. I'm not aware that I've been doing things and not doing things.
Well, you have to stop working in years. Let me tell you something. So I started example. I've lost 15 pounds now. And I started a workout regime. So I've been struggling getting
Wait,
back.
you want it back?
What? No, no,
I've
no,
never
no.
lost anything I didn't want back.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, no. I don't want it
I'm
back.
just messing with because of the. Get it?
Well, I do want it back, but in muscle. But let me give you an example, okay?
Oh, that was a good retort to my
I'm ready.
snarky comment.
I'm
That was
getting
good.
better. Hey,
I do want it back, but I want muscle,
mhm,
dude. I
I want the fat to turn into muscle. So
Yeah, no, I'm
in order to hit it, what I needed to do was
you just owned me. That was good.
what I needed to do was drastic measures. So I
That's
haven't.
impressive. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. And I've struggled. So what I did is I got with this guy. He's a huge trainer, trainer to the stars. What he
Wow.
does is wild. You 3 months with him, you pay him a lot of money, but here's the thing. You can't
Right.
screw up with him. If you screw up, he just takes your money and goes, and it's your fault. So, and he tells you that. He goes, please no, I don't have
Wow.
time. Like I'm a busy man. Here's what it takes. I've now taken it so seriously, but here's my point to this. I started on a Thursday. He said, "Do you want to start on a Monday?" I said, "No, I'm done starting things on a Monday." I started on a Thursday intentionally. Why do you think I started on a Thursday? If you had to guess, Jay,
Um,
and you already know the answer. I'm not a
well, is Thirsty Thursday where people get plastered out of their mind?
well, it is usually right. But think about it. Thursday to me, it's just a random day to start as opposed to starting on Monday because of the pattern interrupt.
yeah, yeah,
For
totally.
years, I'm being told start new year, new week, new me, new year, new me. That's bullshit. It
It's totally
starts
something
when
you
your
would
mind's
do.
ready to
That's a
start.
deep thought.
It is, and it's real. That's why I'll never forget. He said, "You tell me when you're ready to start." I woke up that Thursday. I said, "Hey, we're starting now," and I sent him my weight. I had to send him in the morning. I had to send him pictures in the morning. 5 in the morning, marked my weight, sent it to him on Thursday, and that's when I started. So who cares about 2026, 2027? For those listeners that are listening, to Jay's point, you start right now and you have to keep dissecting yourself. You have to keep analyzing. You have to keep meeting with people. You have to keep asking questions like we talked about earlier. And you have to answer the difficult questions to yourself and not lie to yourself in the mirror about how good you are at your craft. Find someone that's way better than you at your craft and get good at it.
My takeaway from this conversation, well, many, but one of them, and I will leave. We'll close it out. At Only addicts know the true power of discipline.
Wow.
Life is constant paradox, and like the irony of
Writing that down.
the anyone that's faced something bigger than themselves, that Jonah and the whale, I'm swallowed up by my inability to break said pattern. You know, that same inability in one context, or like it's that experience having been broken can transform and empower me, you, someone to then take control of another experience, another expression of a expression of what well, activity, consistency, training, and accountability. It's like that's a takeaway
Got you
from
going
the
today.
conversation is that
All right.
so because we've danced with the devil, like we
Pale moonlight.
because discipline it's a way of being, and I think it takes a special person or someone that something about that the person that can climb out of purgatory and step into the light
It
that
is.
parts the seas.
That's why I like some of those dark songs, my friend. They give a tremendous amount of perspective.
I want to end this episode with a quote. Challenge everyone to go listen to episode 803. God creates out of nothing. Wonderful, you say. Yes, to be sure, but he does what is still more wonderful. He makes saints out of sinners. Soren Kierkegaard, Jonathon Haddad, the Haddad habits. Can't wait to get involved in that. keep going on the journey, man. Thanks for coming back to the Culture Matters podcast. I'm excited for next time. I'll see you at 5:30 a.m. very soon. That's our new
Sure.
time for the Culture Matters podcast. If you're listening to this, where can people follow you?
They can follow me Instagram, Jonathon JONATHON_Haddad HADDAD is my Instagram. Or you can just easily follow me Facebook, Jonathon Haddad, just how it's spelled. So nice and easy.
Share this with a friend that needs to hear this conversation. We will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, Jay.